There are cartoons you watch as a kid and you remember them because they were fun. And then there are cartoons that stay with you because they quietly shaped how you understand emotion and at a time even before you had the language for it. Teen Titans is one of those shows for me. And if you're watching this, maybe one of those shows for you. It never felt like it was teaching you lessons. It never paused the episode to explain what you were supposed to take away. It trusted that if you paid attention, you'd understand. And that trust, that quiet confidence, is exactly why it still resonates all these years later with audiences. Because Teen Titans was never really about superheroes. It was about growing up while trying to keep yourself from falling apart. From the very first episode, Divide and Conquer, the show lays its cards on the table. The villain barely matters. He's forgettable, and that's intentional in my opinion. What actually matters is that the Titans don't work together. Robin tries to control every move, Beast Boy doesn't take the situation seriously, Raven keeps her distance, Starfire is open to a fault, and Cyborg tries to balance everyone out and fails. They technically do win the fight, but it doesn't feel like a victory in the end. It feels like something unfinished, and that becomes the show's mission statement. Teen Titans isn't interested in perfect endings, it's interested in progress. That idea continues almost immediately in Final Exam. On paper, it's a standard superhero setup. The Titans are facing off against the Hive students. But thematically, it's doing something much smarter. Because each of those villains reflects a distorted version of the Titans themselves. Intelligence without wisdom, strength without restraint, and cynicism without connection. The Titans don't win because they overpower them. They win because they finally trust each other enough to work as a team. Power doesn't matter without emotional cohesion, and that lesson becomes the backbone of the entire series. The timing of Teen Titans matters too. Early 2000s Cartoon Network was uniquely open to experimentation. Animation wasn't afraid to be stylized, emotionally sincere, or tonally flexible. Teen Titans definitely leaned into that freedom. It had some heavy anime influence that wasn't just an aesthetic choice, but it allowed emotions to be overly exaggerated visually, internal conflicts to be externalized, and tonal shifts to happen without feeling jarring. Before the show ever goes dark, it makes sure you're comfortable. With episodes like Switched and Car Trouble, they feel small on purpose. Switched uses the body swap trope not just for comedy, but for empathy. Each Titan is forced to experience what life feels like inside someone else's head. Leadership looks different from the outside. Emotional restraint feels overwhelming when it isn't your own. And humor stops being fun when it's all you have. Car Trouble goes even further by almost completely removing the superhero element. There's no major villain, no city-ending threat, just 5 friends stuck together on a road trip, slowly getting on each other's nerves. And that's the point. These characters don't just fight crime together, but they live together, and living together is harder sometimes. That sense of found family is what makes everything that follows hurt as much as it does, though. One of the biggest misconceptions about Teen Titans is that its humor undercuts its seriousness, when in reality the comedy is doing emotional labor. With episodes like Mad Mod and Fractured, and the exaggerated chibi moments aren't distractions. They're pressure valves. They let the show release tension so it can rebuild it later and stronger. If Teen Titans were serious all the time, its darker moments wouldn't land. They'd feel expected, predictable, but instead the show earns silence by first earning laughter. It trains you subconsciously. When the jokes stop, something is definitely wrong. Kind of like when Spider-Man stops quipping during a fight. You could tell, you're probably in deep shit. And that's why the shift in Robin's story feels so heavy. Robin isn't written as a natural leader. He's written as somebody who believes leadership is the only thing keeping everyone from collapsing. Control is not confidence for him, but it's more like fear management. The Apprentice is where the show stops playing safe. Slade doesn't attack Robin physically, but he isolates him emotionally. He praises his discipline, validates his sacrifices, and reinforces the belief that leadership means standing alone. Robin doesn't almost fall because he's weak. He almost falls because Slade tells him exactly what he believes about himself. And what makes it worse is Batman's shadow hanging over everything. Even though Batman is never there, Robin isn't rebelling against Batman. He's internalizing him. The rigid discipline, the emotional distance, the idea that control equals safety. I mean, it's kind of impossible to have a good Robin without Batman influences, obviously. But Slade doesn't ask Robin to become something new. He asks him to go further down a path that Robin is already on. And when Robin ultimately rejects Slade, it isn't triumphant. He doesn't defeat him, he escapes him. And that distinction does matter, because it means the danger never really goes away. Episodes like Mask push that idea further. Without the suit, without the symbol, Robin doesn't really know who he is. The episode quietly questions whether Robin is using heroism to avoid self-reflection, and whether the mask protects others or protects himself. That question comes to a head in Haunted, where Slade is gone by this point, but Robin isn't free. Slade appears as a hallucination, and not because Robin is afraid, but because he's guilty. Guilty that he almost crossed the line. Guilty that part of him understood Slade. And the episode refuses to give him clear and clean closure. Because some things don't just appear just because you survive them. Slade works as a villain because he doesn't rely on spectacle. In Deathstroke Returns, his presence feels very mythic. He doesn't explain himself, and he doesn't need to. And by the time we reach Birthmark, Slade stops being a manipulator and becomes something worse. A guide. A servant of inevitability. That shift feeds directly into Raven's arc, which forms the emotional core of the entire series. Nevermore visualizes Raven's mind as a fractured, dangerous place, where every emotion is a potential disaster. Her restraint isn't coldness, but it's survival, and, in a way, compassion. Spellbound reinforces that even curiosity can destabilize her. Raven doesn't suppress emotion because she wants to. She does it because the consequence of not doing so would be catastrophic. But Raven's growth is often misunderstood as learning to open up. But the show presents it differently. Raven understands her emotions better than anybody. Her problem is not ignorance, it's risk. Her growth isn't about feeling more, but it's about choosing when to feel and who to feel with. The Titans themselves don't even fix Raven, but they become people she trusts enough to share that burden with, to carry it with. And that's a subtle but very powerful message, because independence is not strength. Sharing the weight of your problems, sharing your deepest issues like that is strength. Season 4 forces Raven's reality into the open. With Birthmark, it makes it clear that destiny isn't something she can ignore anymore. And the end doesn't frame the conflict with Trigon as a traditional final battle. Raven doesn't win through rage or power, but she wins through acceptance, and she acknowledges who she is without surrendering to it. And even then, the show refuses to pretend that victory brings peace. The burden remains, and she simply learns how to carry it. After that emotional intensity, the show deliberately shifts energy again, and Beast Boy becomes the focus. Beast Boy's humor is easy to dismiss, but it's never accidental. In Terra, his connection with her feels genuine because they mirror each other's insecurities. He hides fear behind jokes, she hides fear behind distance. Their relationship is built on avoidance, which is why it collapses under any pressure. In The Beast Within, it strips Beast Boy of humor entirely. What's left is anger, raw and frightening. The episode makes it clear that Beast Boy isn't afraid of losing control. He's afraid of being taken seriously when he does. That fear feeds directly into Terra's tragic arc. In Titans Rising, it shows how easily fear can be mistaken for stability. Slade gives Terra structure, limits, and rules, things she's never had. And for someone terrified of herself, that really feels like salvation. In Aftershock, it refuses to undo the damage. Terra saves the city, but loses herself. And the show does not resurrect her. It doesn't soften the consequences, and that denial of comfort is the point. Because if Terra had returned fully redeemed, her story would have meant less. Sometimes actions echo. Sometimes growth doesn't come without reconciliation and sacrifice. As the series moved towards its conclusion, Cyborg and Starfire bring the themes of identity and compassion into focus. In Only Human, it confronts Cyborg's deepest fear. Not that he's different, but that he's replaceable. His humanity isn't proven through biology. It's affirmed through choice. Crash reinforces how fragile control really is, showing how quickly panic sets in when his body betrays him. Trock does something even braver. It depicts prejudice without explanation or justification. There's no speech, no moral lecture to the audience, just quiet cruelty, invisible pain. Starfire doesn't stop being kind. She becomes more aware, and that awareness changes her forever. As the show circles back to Slade one final time, he's no longer just a villain. He is an idea. Slade haunts the Titans not because he's alive, but because he changed them. He represents the people they almost became. That idea culminates in the finale. Things change. There's no final battle, no grand victory. Terra doesn't return, Beast Boy does not get closure, Robin doesn't fix everything, and life moves forward, unresolved and uncomfortable. And I think that's the lesson. Things change isn't really a finale. It's the thesis of the entire show, stated plainly. People grow, relationships shift, closure is rare, and not everything broken gets fixed. Teen Titans didn't grow darker as its audience got older. Its audience grew into what the show was already been saying. That honesty is why it still matters. Because Teen Titans didn't just respect its characters, but it respected you. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. That's pretty much all I have to say, at least on this video, but I love this show growing up so much. This was seriously such a big part of my childhood. Between this, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, and a few others, but I mean, these were like pillars of my childhood, and I feel very lucky that I got to grow up on such a special show because it's not just nostalgia talking. This show genuinely is different. And if you're watching this video and you have not seen the show, I highly recommend you go watch it, seriously, because I think even as an adult, as I mentioned in this video, it's just as relevant, it's just as entertaining, and it's just as impactful. So hopefully you guys enjoyed what I had to say. Let me know what you think down below, both of the show and of this video. And let me know if you want to see more videos from the world of Teen Titans, because I absolutely love this team, this specific version. However, I love, other versions of the team. So yeah, definitely let me know what you guys want to see next. But until then, that's all I got for you. Thanks.